There's good morning, good afternoon. It might be even night, so whatever. Greetings. I tell you, I love to come your way. I love to come your way with good music and with a great message of hope and inspiration and blessing. So let's get right to it and see what God has to say. We're talking today, I love it, about restoration of your what? Most of us, we have so many things in life that need to be restored. Your youth, the scripture says, can be restored by waiting on the Lord. Your business, your physical, restoration. Jesus found himself with a fellow in the temple, you remember? I told you last time. Had a withered hand. His hand had been hurt. He was a laboring guy. It was not genetic. It didn't pass down through the generations, but pow, he had an accident. And it just withered his hand and paralyzed it. And it stayed that way. Did you ever have something come in your life and say, bang, and it never changed? It just seemed like that when that thing hit, financially or otherwise, it just never changed. I'm reminded so often about in the 80s when I was pastoring great, growing, dynamic church, buses and television, picking up inner city children and no cost to anybody but the church, and television reaching out over this area and others. And the tsunami of recession hit in the 80s. You probably don't remember it, and some of you probably do. And it's still going on. You know what? It just wiped out 1,000 members of my church. They had to pack up in U-Hauls and go places to find jobs. 800 U-Hauls left Waterloo, Iowa in one weekend. You know what that's like? Oh, you say, that's just, it's the same thing as if a recession came and hit your portfolio and knocked out $5 million. Oh, yes, I know. You worked hard to save that up and make that. But I worked hard to build that church day and night. Weather, bad weather, good weather, frozen weather, weather 20 below zero, cold, snow, ice, people, sickness, troubles. I worked and I worked and I worked and I built it. We have one of the largest memberships of any Wesleyan church in America. And then, bang. So something hit. And when that something hits, it's tough. This guy had this. And he was in the temple. And around him were these criticizer church people. I certainly don't want to be difficult. But I'll tell you, if you want to see the ugliness of the human heart, sometimes just hang around some of the churches that are just waiting for something to retaliate. They want to discriminate against you. It's probably one of the most devastating facts that would wake you up. Jesus was there, and these guys were looking on. And they weren't looking on to see a miracle. No, they were looking on to see if he's going to break the law. Shame. You know what I have said, and I wrote it down right here, that if the law of your life and of your business, listen, and of your church, of your bank, of your medical work, your scholarly work, your university work, your seminary, if any law is better than the need, then you'd better change the law. Because the need always comes before the law. I want you to hear that. Many people will stick by the law no matter what. If it breaks up their business, if it destroys their hospitals, if it causes people to divorce each other, and if it is a sense of destroying my neighbor or my co-worker for my advantage. He's not doing what the law wants. He's not doing what is required in our business. And therefore, instead of watching for a restoration and a growth and a development, they watch only to revenge and take advantage. That's what these people were doing, watching Jesus. Here's this guy, and they wanted to see what Christ was going to do. And I love this. While they were thinking about the retaliation, Jesus was thinking about reaching out your hand. Marvelous. The scripture says, while they were watching to accuse him, he saw them. The same guys that brought in the woman caught in adultery, stone her. Yeah, they never changed. They never changed through the years. And he was watching, and they were standing over to one side, waiting with the law in their hands. And Jesus saw them, and they said, we wonder if he'll do this miracle on the Sabbath day. You know, my friend, the Sabbath day is every day. Read what St. Paul said in Romans. There's no day above another. You know, I can have Sabbath on Wednesday. You know what? I take communion every morning. I'm not in church with a priest or another pastor. I take it myself with my toast and my coffee. You see, if you abide by the law, you'll miss everything. And here's what I love. While they were standing there that they might accuse Jesus, Jesus in such a manly boldness, he's no longer, you know, the little tiny, weakly kind of a guy walking on the shores. He's a man for him. He could outwalk you. I mean, he walked from Galilee to Jerusalem. I've taken that trip. That's a hard trip, but he walked it. And while they were standing there with their sour faces, I like this, and it said that they might accuse him. Then Jesus rose up like a mighty man and said to that man with a withered hand, stretch forth your hand. I mean, Jesus actually defied them. He looked them over and he decided to take them on. Ooh, I love that. He looked them over and he said, you bunch of hypocrites. And and they were watching to make sure they can get something against Jesus and retaliate him, bring him before the courts. And this man of God, filled with God, and he just took them on, said, I'll take you on. I'll take you on, all right? Stretch forth your hand. And everybody held their breath, and the guy stretched forth his hand, and the Bible said it was restored. There's that retaliation, right? And there's that command, reach forth, and then there is the conclusion. It was restored. Oh, can you imagine what went on in that temple that day? And this poor guy, his hand off. It's like the guy in Acts of the Apostles when he had his ankles healed, that the Bible said he went leaping and jumping and shouting in the temple. What would happen today in many of our churches if somebody really found Christ and really got touched and healed and got their family back and got their business back up, and they were able to restore their family, their wife and husband, and they'd come into church just running and dancing and jumping and saying, I'm healed, I'm back, my wife's back, I'm all right. I think we'd all say, perhaps we ought to get the ushers and let them go. Well, that's what this guy did. And I want you to know today, I really am excited about Jesus Christ. And I'm excited about the fact that he can do exactly what he said he can do. And I want you to believe that as I leave you today. Stretch forth, reach out, make an effort, and see if he will not restore your life. I'm excited. I'll see you next time, right here on the Life